howdy y'all. Do any of y'all know where I can find sleep? Right here, because I'm about to start reading, so just enjoy. Enjoy the dulcet tones of PastorDoostyn. All right, this one's called Forgiven and Forgiving. Matthew 18:33, should not you have had mercy on your fellow servant as I had mercy on you? And here's the Devo itself. A forgiven person should be a forgiving person. And since forgiveness does not come naturally to us, we need to hear this again and again. In other words, we forgive because God, through Jesus, forgives us. The Bible makes it perfectly clear that forgiveness doesn't spring from any human merit and isn't the result of our own endeavors to be gracious and forgiving toward others. Rather, it comes from the grace of God. One of the chief evidences that someone has truly repented of their sins, therefore, is a forgiving spirit. Conversely, if we continually harbor enmity, grudges, and bitterness in our hearts, we not only harm our own lives and jeopardize our relationships, but frankly, we also call into question whether we've ever truly discovered the nature of God's forgiveness at all. It's impossible to extend genuine forgiveness unless we've experienced it ourselves, and impossible not to do so if we have. It will only flow from our hearts once we have been changed by God's grace and have considered the enormity of our offense against Him. When such a transformation takes place, the sin of others against us will carry less weight as God enables us to forgive as we've been forgiven. This is the principle behind Jesus' parable of the servant in Matthew 18, who, having been forgiven a debt that was the first century equivalent of $8 billion, then refused to forgive a debt of $20,000. Jesus wants us to see the unreasonableness of the servant who had been forgiven an enormous debt in refusing to forgive the debt that was owed to him. Viewed on its own, that debt was substantial. Set against the amount he himself had been forgiven, it was tiny. Likewise, it is inconceivable that we, who have been forgiven such a vast debt of offense against God, should ever fail to forgive others. If we have experienced God's mercy, then we must certainly not neglect the exercise of forgiveness. In forgiving others, we enjoy the fullness of God's pardon. Give up the records of sins that you're tempted to hold on to. When this is hard because the wrong you're being called to forgive was serious, look at the debt for which God has forgiven you, and look at what He gave up to do so, and that will enable you to extend mercy in your turn. Surely, if God has forgiven you, He will pour out His grace and mercy to help you walk in harmony with others. That was really just a powerful, potent Devo and thought that I was reading this morning and wanted to share with y'all. It's something that we talk about often because sometimes people come in and say, hey, I'm just struggling with forgiveness. Unforgiveness has been a part of my life for so long, and I feel angry and bitter towards this or that or whatever. And I've always shared that same kind of idea, just in a smaller package, said, something along the lines of whenever we look at the wrongs that have been done to us just on their own, and we keep our eyes on them, we magnify them, and they appear like this enormous thing. And maybe they were. Maybe they were truly horrible, evil, terrible things that were done to you. But if we take our eyes off of those and instead look at our own sin against a holy God, which is an insurmountable amount of wrong and evil and wickedness, that offense that was done to us shrinks. It looks so small because yes, it was a horrible, evil thing, but it's nothing compared to what I've done to God. And that's the point that Jesus was getting across here in Matthew 18. So let's read through that parable. In Matthew 18, maybe I should show it on the screen. I tried, but the buttons aren't working because the PC reset because we lost power here. Which means probably check-ins. Yep, they all reset, didn't they? Actually, they didn't even work because I didn't even turn on StreamerBot. My bad. Everything reset. Let's see. Boom, boom. Yeah, that happens whenever we lose power here at the church. Everything just messes up and resets. Okay. So Matthew 18, starting at verse 21. Then Peter came up and said to him, Lord, how often will my brother sin against me and I forgive him? As many as 7 times? Jesus said to him, I do not say to you 7 times, but 77 times, or 70 times 7 in other translations. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his servants. When he began to settle, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents, or like we just read in the Devo, the modern equivalent of $8 billion. And since he could not pay, his master ordered him to be sold with his wife and children and all that he had, and payment to be made. So the servant fell on his knees, imploring him, Have patience with me, and I will pay you everything. And out of pity for him, the master of that servant released him and forgave him the debt. But when that same servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii, or the modern equivalent of about $20,000. And seizing him, he began to choke him, saying, Pay what you owe. So his fellow servant fell down and pleaded with him, Have patience with me, and I will pay you. He refused, and went and put him in prison until he should pay the debt. When his fellow servants saw what had taken place, they were greatly distressed, and they went and reported to their master all that had taken place. Then his master summoned him and said to him, You wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you pleaded with me. And should not you have had mercy on your fellow servant as I had mercy on you? And in anger his master delivered him to the jailers until he should pay all his debt. So also my heavenly Father will do to every one of you if you do not forgive your brother from your heart. Oh man, it's just such a heavy and relatable truth, because none of us make it through life unscathed. We all have stuff that happens to us. We're surrounded by people that may love us, friends, family, the closest people in our lives, or complete strangers. And people are going to hurt you. People are going to say things to you that hurt you. People are going to do terrible things to you. None of us make it through life without scars and scratches and wounds and whatever. But while we can't control that, we can't control what people do to us, we can control our action, our response toward them, and how we, maybe not even toward them, but how we choose to respond to what was done to us. Are we going to choose to hold on to that, to keep that scar open and let it fester and bubble and become infected and gross and whatever, and just go over and over and over how awful that was and how unfair that was, and that was so bad what they did? And you may be completely right. What they did was evil and horrible and awful. Yes, but by refusing to forgive, you're harboring bitterness and destroying yourself. And that person, they may not have any idea that they even did anything. It might have been something totally out of negligence or whatever, and they don't even remember it. But it's completely eaten up and destroyed your life. And that's the picture here, is the importance of letting those things go. It doesn't mean that you allow that person the same access to your life, or that things stay exactly the way they were. You might have to protect yourself from that. That's all, totally valid, fair game. But refusing to forgive them is not okay because of what God has forgiven us. And so this is a very helpful tool to just give us perspective on the wrongs that have been done to us. And we say, yep, that was horrible, that was evil, that hurt and whatever, but that's nothing compared to what I've done to God. So if God forgave me of what I did to him, who am I to hold this against this person? They've got their own issues with God they need to work out, but I'm not going to hold and harbor bitterness and unforgiveness in my heart toward them. And now that I think about it, it wasn't a person on stream that was asking, it was someone in church that we were talking about this with. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. It's not easy at all, but shifting our perspective can be very helpful in working through unforgiveness and bitterness.